All right, it's 4 p.m. Let's call the meeting to order. We'll start with the flag salute and invocation by Diane.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you today for this day that we have. We thank you that for the City Commission that can meet in an open session, Lord. We thank you for our country. We think of Pearl Harbor Day today, and thank you for all of our veterans and all those that participated in that, Lord. I ask you to be with our police and fire and be with the parade tonight, have everything to go safely. And we just thank you for the many blessings you give us. We ask you to be with our city manager and protect him. And just thank you for all you do for us. Help us to live for you and make wise decisions. In your name I pray, amen.
Amen. Thanks, Diane.
All right. Item number 6, consent agenda. Any questions on that? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Whoa.
All right, we can move to approve. Oop. Sorry, I wasn't ready yet. On did you guys want to discuss anything about item C on the consent agenda?
Did you see anything wrong with it?
Now this is it says 72,095.
Oh, you didn't get the new
There's
one.
a new one. It's in front of you.
Where's it at?
I also emailed it to you.
Email stuff. Okay.
The amount is $45,666.
Okay. Yeah, that I'm good with.
Okay.
Evidently, your emails still go to my trash folder or whatever.
Not good.
Not good.
Did you make a motion, Randy?
I did.
Second.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Pete Allen.
No.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right. Up next, public comment. First, we have Thomas Russell. How you doing? There's a button on there to turn that mic on. There you go.
Well, I appreciate you letting me come and speak tonight. I wanted to hand some photos, a photo to everyone on a property on 619 Ransom. I live at 623 Ransom. I've been there since 2001. Fred Smith bought this property at 619 Ransom in 2003. Between 2003 and 2005, the city had him tear the back half of this property off. And every time something looks wrong with the building, I've gotten a hold of codes since 2005. And usually they send him a letter or something, but then I see him doing the repairs that they asked him to. And then I found out here just recently that last meeting that he was at, that the city gave him 90 days to put on a bathroom and a kitchen. The only thing he's done is that white pipe that's on the ground, he laid it there on 12/3 of 21. That's the only work he's done to that 90-day repair. And I'm just asking that they don't keep giving him an extensions, because that's what he does. He just pacifies the city, and that's all he wants to do. But I've tried to sell my house 4 times, and every time it comes up, we don't like that. And I'm just asking that they would follow through with, if he doesn't really want to do it, do something with it.
Sir, what address did you say that was?
619 Ransom.
Mayor, he has, according to the ordinance, he has until December 10th to be in compliance. After that, it will come back before you to be bid out for demolition, so
So
it'll be on the next agenda.
Next agenda.
Yes,
So
that's why I'm here. The tree with 3 limbs coming out of the ground, that is actually in the foundation area.
Right.
So it's been going on quite a while.
Right.
And I know the house, the blue one, it's on demolition. And we're keeping our place up. And I just appreciate the people, just because they live in the city. I think if they own it, they need to take care of it.
will you be able to attend next meeting in 2 weeks?
Yeah, there's no reason why I can't.
I'd say if you want to come to that one as well,
Yes,
and so it should be on the agenda.
okay,
And then
I can do that.
if you have any questions, we'll let you on that too. That way.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your help.
you coming.
Jamie Armstrong.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jamie Armstrong, and I'm here this evening before you on behalf of a group of volunteers known as Warming Hearts. This is a group of local volunteers who are trying to address homelessness here in Fort Scott. We have received a donation from a giver who wishes to help construct temporary winter housing for the homeless population here in Fort Scott. These sleeping pods would be approximately 4 foot by 5 foot by 8 foot, semi, I guess, permanent structures, but could be relocated because of their small nature. And what we're asking for consideration is we're exploring the possibility of where to locate these for a couple of reasons. There are a multitude of churches and local volunteers who are already trying to address the needs of the homeless. However, having a centralized location, particularly during the winter months, to be able to administer supplies, resources, food, and to give them a specific source of housing helps to facilitate a number of issues that the homeless face. So what we're looking at is the possibility of locations for these temporary pods. We've identified what we would consider sort of the short list of what we'd love to see happen. One of those being a private property. Again, we know this is short term in terms of nature. We're just hoping to basically put these up and leave them there until March. There are a number of volunteers who are working on more permanent types of housing for homeless, but these would be temporary. The locations that we'd love to consider is the old trailer park next to Community Christian, which is a private property, and we realize that is not your say. But we're putting that out there just so that we can give those local owners an opportunity, if they're willing, to make that a temporary location for the main purpose being that it's adjacent to Community Christian Church. Community Christian already offers blessing bags for the homeless, as well as shower facilities for the homeless, and is also where the Feeding Families is being administered on Mondays. So it would give us direct access and the ability to maintain and take care of the property in the most efficient manner. A few other locations that we've considered are Bridal Veil Park. It's in a less residential area, which we assume, we may hear some feedback about that, but also gives us the ability to have a street light for security, permanent tables. We would provide a porta potty and a trash receptacle that would be maintained at the location, and our group would be responsible for maintaining those amenities. We are hoping that in order to do that, it will give us the ability to provide the homeless a somewhat structured and routine ability to receive resources, also make it easier for law enforcement, if needed, to check on them, as well as medical personnel to be able to find them in a timely manner should they need assistance. Our goal is to establish relationships that help us figure out how to get them back into a mainstream sort of situation, but you don't do that unless you have an ability to maintain something that can help them in order to do that. It also makes our efforts a lot more streamlined and efficient in terms of being able to address needs timely manner, which is often very, very important in the homeless situation. So I am here as the spokesperson, but I would be remiss not to mention that Tanya Cliffman is one of our lead organizers. Tanya can answer a variety of questions that you might have about what we're proposing. We would also entertain the idea of any property within the city's land bank that you might allow us to have temporary access to in order to meet the needs of the homeless during this winter.
I just have a few questions. How long has Warming Hearts been around? Is this something that's just started, or has it been around for a while? Or
Tom, did you want to come up and she can give you a little more of the history of the group?
We originally started our conversations about the September timeframe when it became a public mainstream conversation for Fort Scott with some of the opportunities we had in the local park. So it's a fairly new organized group, but we are partnered with Community Christian. So they've been in the community for 49 plus. I don't picture them disappearing anytime soon.
They're also housing the donation that we received from a private donor and doing the administration on the funds to give us, some transparency and ability to fiscally manage the resources.
and who would be the responsible party? Like if it's, let's say something occurred, the city had questions or concerns, and who would be the responsible party for this?
I can give you a list of names. I'd be more than happy to be the go-to person on that, the phone number on that. Or Community Christian would be able to funnel questions for me as well.
Is this like a situation to where I know when we do anything different in a housing type of area, like rather than single family dwelling structures, we have to send out notices within 500 feet. Is that what we have to do here, Bob, or you just, what do you think?
Well, you're not really changing the use of the land because it's just a temporary. So I'm of the opinion that we just expedite and move ahead with it.
So we would have to, the only thing we'd have to do is maybe waive codes for the size of the,
It's kind of an emergency situation.
Right.
It's not permanent. It's not changing the use.
I understand, I'm just saying, I'm just thinking of all aspects, and one of the things I'm thinking is, we just talked about this neighbor here that has a building that doesn't have a bathroom and stuff in it, and how we're gonna want him to tear it down, and then we're gonna put more up that doesn't have a bathroom in it. So, I mean, if they're gonna possibly come at us and say, well, this one don't, why does mine have to?
Well, I think you run into these emergency kinds of situations. I'm sorry, Pete, I haven't gotten it. You run into these emergency kinds of situations, and when we start doing the planning commission, zoning, and whatever, then it's springtime and we don't need this. I'm of the opinion you forge ahead, we waive everything that we can, and proceed. And if somebody wants to challenge us, they can challenge us. But this, I'm not advocating this. I'm just saying this is to protect people from freezing to death in the wintertime. That's really what it is.
Do these have any type of heating source at all?
They're small enough that we feel with the insulation and the construction of it that their body heat would enable them to. This specific pod picture right there is with R10 on the inside and R5 or R7. I'm not a construction person, so I'm just repeating what I saw. But in that, they were able to maintain inside temperatures with just using their body heat, and the exterior temperatures was -15. So this is modeled off of one that they use in Canada. So I would think we would put in a smoke detector, we would put in a carbon monoxide detection, in case of just that sealed unit. We would hate to have carbon monoxide build up.
And I get it, knocking the wind off is gonna be huge.
Yes.
I mean, that's,
Off the ground, dry, and out of the wind.
Sure.
Is our goal.
and I'm all about doing the right thing. The only reason I brought that up is because I know human nature, and if one person's getting it, the second person's gonna say, you can't treat me any different. You're making me tear mine down, and they're building new ones across the thing. So,
There again, I think my position would be these are only temporary through March, and once it warms up, we hope at that point to be able to establish enough relationship that we can help direct them in living situations outside of the pods.
Is this something you expect to try to do every year, or?
This is the fix for this year. My heart goes, this morning when I got in the car, it's 31 degrees. I cannot imagine trying to sleep in 31-degree weather.
We
And
hope if
so-
we can not only facilitate, at least for now, a temporary solution to get them through the winter, but the idea is to not have a homeless population, right? Is to help them eventually reestablish themselves in something more permanent. But it doesn't solve the issue for today.
How many?
We're gonna start with 2 and see what need arises from that point.
Bob, do you suggest if we do this, put a max on them?
Yeah, I think you don't want 20 because that becomes a problem. I'm kind of with Kevin there. But if you put 2 or 3, so you can put a max on it, I think it's controllable. It also, I think, helps them as to how much land they might need.
I know from speaking with the Beacon and Compassionate Ministries, we have what we think is 4 to 6 visible homeless in our area. And I know on the agenda, some of the structures that we're looking at, I don't know if some of those 4 to 6 are living in those structures now that will not have a structure, a month from now, 2 weeks from now. But we think that we are looking at 4 to 6 in our local community.
Yeah, I'm just asking, have you reached out to any of the neighbors, the college, or any, I'm just trying to cover all aspects. I know the church is on board. Have you reached out to the college at all?
No.
And do you want all of them in that location, or do you want like 2 there and 2 somewhere else?
Ideally, one location, but if we needed to split that up into 2, at least we knew where those 2 locations were that we could still.
As I say, I got some other ideas too for like on both ends of town, maybe on all 4, because there's going to be. I'm just thinking, if it's 10 degrees and I'm staying in that hut and I need to get to, somewhere to get groceries,
Warm up, yeah.
yeah. Well, you had to say Walmart, didn't you? But anyway, she's still.
I said warm up.
Oh,
but
I think you said
anyway.
Walmart.
But they come in and they sit in the coffee shops and they warm up and they socialize and they need groceries. And so, yes, we're looking for locations, and there's 8 brains at your table that might have better thoughts and solutions and perspectives. So we're opening that up to build this together.
Okay. Well, I guess, I'll make the motion to do it on the, hinging on the fact that I think we're probably gonna take some.
Do you know where on that land you're looking at putting them to start with? Because it's a pretty big,
It's a pretty
Big
large
land.
lot, yes. No, I haven't gone out and staked or measured or.
I mean, I don't know if it'd be like right up on the road or right back.
I would not say, me personally, I would not like to see them close to the street. I would say more to center or back towards tree line, but I'm not sure how close the residences are behind the tree line. So by all means, we want to be respectful of those neighbors.
And what are you thinking? Are you thinking this is where they'll use them the most, is there?
Here's my thoughts on it. So Bridle Park, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind,
Sure.
and
That's a long walk.
it is a long walk. But I know one in particular that walks all over town all day, all night. He just does not stop. So for him to just walk into town and grab something to eat or whatever, and then come back, that's just a drop in the bucket for him.
Okay.
But at the same time, with the property next to Community Christian Church, the idea, yes, it would be. Because, I drive all over town several times a week trying to meet with them where they are, and it's very hard for me. I'll drive around an hour and a half, and I can't find a single one. So if with those 2 particular locations, at least we know where they're at, and if anything arises, that we can come to where they are, address the needs as they are, and go from there. And at the same time, it's not going to be 70 degrees in there, but it'll be warmer than just being on the bench.
Right.
And so this is a viable solution, at least through the winter, so that then we can possibly look at a more long-term viable solution. And the group that we have, we're talking viable, logical, it can be done solutions, not just these wild fantasy ideas. And so we're bringing this to you so that you can we could be on the same team on this. But we really do have a heart for this, and we've taken on, we're giving you our word that if this happens, we will be responsible for that.
Well,
Randy, did you?
they're portable, so that's
That's
Yeah,
fine.
and it's, from March first, we plan on packing up and then,
We'll store them.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
I think
and-
Randy had one thing.
I got a couple of questions. So you have or have not talked to the existing neighbors? Have not. And once somebody's moved into this, does it then become theirs for the winter, or you see this as a transient, in one night, out the next night, somebody else occupies it? How's that gonna be coordinated, and is that gonna be a conflict or a fight with
we
the?
would like to see them come to us and say, I would like a pod. We have that
Would-
conversation, this is through March, this is yours. And guidelines, use the trash receptacles, use the porta potties, we cannot build fires. And then from that point, they would vacate that in March. Now, we might end up starting with 2 and have 3 people, and we're trying to juggle how to get that third one built, which I have no doubts that we can do.
We said
But
we had
they're not
six,
made to be in and out every other night.
said we had 6 or 8 people in town that need them, so I'm a little uncertain what we're,
I think our concern is that some might not be willing to accept our help.
well, and that's my other question. You all have contact with these folks. Have they actually indicated an interest in this?
We are reaching out to them, we have one hard no, not interested, but if that hard no is living in a structure that's getting ready to be torn down, that hard no might change. So we're playing it by ear and trying to make decisions and make judgments as we go and as this develops.
Right. I mean, it's still a learning process
Yes,
for you
it
guys
is.
as well.
I mean, if there is a successful model out there, then homelessness would not be an issue anywhere. So everybody's just trying to do their part, and we will have to learn along the way, I'm sure.
I think it's awesome, and I still have this hesitancy in me, worried about, the neighbor. If I'm living there and I see all of a sudden, I'm thinking,
Well, yeah,
just
that's what
like
I'm
he
saying.
said, how am I
there's-
trying to sell my
If
house?
a neighbor has a problem even, I mean, who do they contact?
I would think if it's a criminal problem, call
Well,
the
I
police
mean,
department,
let's
but if
just say
it's
it's
just a
a
noise
nuisance
problem,
problem, yeah.
then we would try to resolve that. We would try.
So you'll have you'll give a list here at the city, and we can hand out, if someone
Yes.
calls and say, hey, call this
And we
person.
share that with the Beacon, we would share that with the neighbors, we would share that with the police department.
Was there a motion made, Diane?
I made a motion.
No second yet.
I'll second it with the amendment that we limit it to 2 right now. If you see a need for more, and get one built, then come back to us.
And if
Are you fine with
everything
that, Kim?
breaks loose, like if we see something, I mean, we always got the option to pull back, I'm sure, but I'm just saying.
Right, yeah, and I guess part of my amendment is till March 1st.
Right.
Middle of March, because sometimes March 1st still a little cool.
Yeah, we've had snows on spring break, so.
I mean, what
I'd say
date do you
April.
guys feel comfortable with, so we know?
We would,
I would say end of March.
I'm gonna say, we would say likely no later than March 31st, but we will notify you when we can pull them out, depending on weather.
Right.
April Fool's Day.
All right, so yeah, March 31st.
Just something.
Are you okay with this amendment, Kevin?
Yeah, I'll go
Okay.
along with it.
Yeah, I'll ask one other question about the amendment. Should the neighbors be surveyed before we go ahead with this?
Well, I think to Bob's point, this is, just letting you know, this is something, Jamie, you know. So if there is a bunch of flack back, that's something we will have to revisit. So this will be, give you this, but there's a chance, depending on at any time it could. So, I mean, I'm willing to try it, but if there's,
We understand the hesitancy. I mean, our goal is that right now our homeless population they're not maintained in any way, shape, or form. And so we hope that this makes their plight, along with, the homelessness in the community, a better experience for everyone involved. Just because you'll now have people that are actually being able to centralize services.
well, it sounds like you got a vast group to help out, not just one person, 2 people. So it
I
won't become too big.
really appreciate the commission's consideration. I know we knew we were running out of time to address it for this winter, but we feel like it's vitally important. And we fully expect we're probably gonna get some feedback on it, but hopefully once they see the plan and they understand that it's temporary, to address an issue that quite honestly is gonna be here regardless.
Have you secured the pods now?
We have the funds secured, but we have not.
Okay.
They wanted permission for facility before we started construction.
So are you leaning towards private properties only, or are we considering Bridal Veil?
Yeah,
or
I'm
is this
so, I'm
land
assuming,
bank, or-
so my amendment also would be on the private property. I mean, I think it takes liability away from us and we're still new, and so, the property owner and you guys are taking the liability for this, and it's not liability on the city. And I agree, I think the location's better, honestly.
Okay.
The short
Yeah, you
answer.
got the anchor of the church there, which
Yeah.
is the sponsor
So I would make the
group.
amendment based on the property you stated, which I know what property it is, so,
We'll work with the property owners.
yeah.
to
And
make
so
that
that's the
happen.
way I'd make the motion, amendment. Kevin, you fine with that?
Yeah, did he amend it again?
Yep.
All right, I'll do that too. He just amends it. You sure you want to make a motion?
That makes us very happy. Thank you.
Very happy.
Appreciate your time.
We'll start calling in, we'll give you guys a phone.
You do that. You do that.
Randy Nichols,
Thank you.
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes, thank you, ladies. All right, Deb McCoy.
Good evening. I just want to speak about some concerns. The decision-making process has appeared very confusing and convoluted. Are we
Deb,
seeing-
would you mind pulling the microphone a little closer, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. The decision-making process has appeared very confusing and convoluted. Are we setting a precedent that commissioners can ignore our city ordinance by allowing members of the governing body to manipulate and override the policies in place to meet their own agenda and not giving any consideration that they are clearly making decisions that are outside of the law? For instance, filling a vacant position. June 21st, 2005, a city ordinance was passed to have a vacancy filled within 10 days or at the next regular scheduled city commission meeting. It also stated that the city attorney shall cast the decisive vote for such appointment. We've had 2 commissioners resign in the past year, and the process of filling the positions were both handled very differently. November 19th, 2020, the commission met to accept the resignation of the mayor. 2 of the commissioners felt that the candidate from the last regular election for city commission receiving the highest number of votes should fill the vacancy. The 2 opposing commissioners did not want to accept the highest vote getter candidate and made disparaging remarks that this was not their desire, so there was a 2-2 vote. The attorney did not make the decisive vote. Here's what was allowed to happen. They extended the 10-day time limit of the ordinance to request letters of interest. This process is not even mentioned in the ordinance. During the 10/19/21 commissioner meeting, a commissioner stated that they had moved out of the city. And according to the state statute, if any council member moves out from the ward which elected, the office shall be deemed vacant. Our city lawyer stated we had 10 days to fill the vacancy. The Fort Scott Tribune printed the commissioner's property warranty deed was completed on 11/1/21, and their home was in the city was vacant. On 11/2/21, the following commissioner meeting, no resignation and no action was taken, and that was day number 13. On 11/16/21, at the commissioner meeting, no action was taken 27 days later. On 11/24, a special meeting was called to accept the resignation of the commissioner, day 37. The highest vote getter in the last election held on 11/2/21 was given the position, and which makes sense since there is only a month left in the vacated term. But in my opinion, the delay for the resignation allowed a candidate running in the 11/2/21 election to be put into the vacancy. This candidate was publicly endorsed by a certain commissioner during a previous commissioner meeting, which is totally unethical during a city meeting. Another thing that we've had a lot of questions about is residency. The last residency ordinance was passed on January 5th, and it said the officers shall reside within the Fort Scott city limits. Does the word residency in these ordinances mean permanent, part-time? Does owning rental property in town count as a resident? Does owning a business in town with modified living quarters count as a resident? We have had a previous commissioner have their home annexed into the city so they could hold city offices. The home was sold and the new owners requested that the home be de-annexed. We have had other sitting commissioners whose residency has been questioned. Do we need to be more precise in the wording that is used when drawing up our ordinances to prevent uncertainty? And the other concern I had was individual members of the commission acting independently. We have witnessed the results of 4 sitting commissioners on 2 different occasions utilizing public funds by consulting with both the past and present city attorney, where actions were taken and decisions made without the consent of the governing body. Per Kansas League, council or commission is not in session. The individual members have no more legal authority than a private citizen. Actions outside of meetings are not binding, and an action of a city governing body cannot be taken by individual members acting independently. These commissioners, along with the city lawyers, were involved in behind-the-scenes decisions regarding our past 2 city managers. Individual commissioners had the lawyers draw up the severance packages that we, the taxpayers, continue to pay. Where does the accountability lie in those who have participated in questionable actions and behaviors, ignoring policies and procedures, making deals to benefit personal agendas at the expense of the taxpayers? Were the actions based on job performance or for means to accomplish a personal agenda of the acting commissioners? Would these actions taken outside of the city hall be considered abuse of power and official misconduct? We as citizens are the will of the people because we are the ones who exercise our right to vote you in as elected officials. We expect you to follow the state statutes and city's ordinances that the previous governing bodies have put into place. They were not passed to be ignored, nor is it your option to pick and choose which ones you want to follow. Policies and procedures provide regulatory requirements, hold officials and appointees accountable, identify anomalies, and build a stronger working culture and a greater understanding of what is expected by all. We voted you into office to do what is lawfully right. I just hope we have a brighter 2022.
Thank you, Deb. Bob, I'm just asking, was there anything about any commissioner replacement was against the law that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of.
And I would just say to the public, if you think that any of us are breaking the law, you can go to the Kansas Attorney General, report us. In fact, I think over the last 3 years, 31 reports have been turned into the Kansas Attorney General, and every one has been found no wrongdoing. So, you know, at a cost to the city of about $20,000, because every time one's turned in, we have to
Defend yourself.
defend ourselves. And I think it's about 31 times we have been defended properly. But I would say anyone that has any questions, call the Attorney General. I mean, that's what they're there for. So.
What are ordinances there for? I have the written ordinances right here.
All right. Up
Deb,
next.
I wanted to comment real quick too, Deb, and I appreciate you coming to the podium and talking and everything, but you know, the one part I do agree with you on is, well, I agree with you on several parts. The one thing was replacement of commissioners. I've always, and you well know in the past that I said that the next vote getter, when Tim came up in this one, I think that was the right thing to do. You know, and like last time when Josh came on, you know, that was, you were the vote getter ahead, but I've tried to change that policy to where we can, you know.
And I'm not saying these things because I was okay with that. You know, I accepted my defeat. But I just think when you make ordinances, you should follow them.
Right.
That's state statutes, city ordinances, that's what they're made for. Because when you don't have ordinances, you don't have consistency and it's chaotic.
Right.
All right, up next, old business. Under A, consideration to repeal ordinance 2563, section 1270, 1280, ordinance 3588. Under A. There's a bunch of them. Jason.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I think this is being revisited, and the reasoning, initially, they were presented to be repealed, and it was noted that specifications were not yet updated. So we went forward with that and sent sections of specifications dealing with the same topics that the ordinances talked about. And we got staff comments and made adjustments, and we ended up with the final version of that here recently, and I think that's been emailed to staff. So that's available if you have any questions. But so the request to have specifications replace those has been completed. So unless there's any other questions, and I can talk through the specs if you would like.
Does anyone have any questions on that?
Well, yeah, I definitely have questions. I don't know what it is we're attempting to do here, but to repeal these ordinances is wrong, and replace them with a standard or specification 200 pages long that you have to sort through to find how to backfill a excavation. That's wrong. It's so simple and so easy to go to the ordinance, and the ordinance is the law that governs. The standards and the specifications don't govern the procedure. The ordinance does. And just for instance, if we repeal the ordinance 12.110, replacement of materials, there is nothing in the standards and specifications that cover Fort Scott, the brick streets in Fort Scott. I think all the ordinances should be specific to Fort Scott and not some nationwide generic specification, which is what is being proposed to do. If nothing in the proposed standards and specifications even mentions brick streets. So what it does say is that anything that you take out can be replaced by concrete. So envision Main Street from here to the fort with huge concrete patches in them. That's what we will have if we repeal this ordinance. We will have that opportunity that that contractors or our city crews can replace bricks with concrete. There's nothing wrong with the ordinance. The three ordinances as they are, they're very similar to the standards and specifications that we're referring to, except the one about replacement of materials. That's totally different. And I don't think that we want to go backwards here. I think we have one page for the excavation, one page for the backfill, and one page for the replacement of the materials versus 200 pages that we have to sort through with standards and specifications, which leads to all kinds of misinterpretation of what it is we're trying to do. So I object to rescind those ordinances.
Okay, if I can clarify. Yeah, so for the specs, and maybe you haven't all been able to see them, but if the staff approves them, generally that's okay. But on your questions about the brick streets, we are specific in that pavement replacement section. That brick will go back to brick. And then I have an entirely new specification that talks about the brick pavers and how to install those.
I don't see that.
Right, and that's not in the ordinance. So that's the proposed new section. So we wanted to take your current specs cover public water, wastewater, and stormwater system improvements, which gets into that utility cuts and the street cuts. and the backfill and the pavement replacement. So there's a section called trenching and backfilling for utilities, which is where you get into cutting a brick street, and before it said you could put in concrete, but now we're directing them that unless it's approved, you have to go back with brick, and that's referring them to a new section that's called clay brick pavers, which goes in depth about how to properly construct those streets and use, initially we want to use the bricks that's already there, match the type, or an approved equal that, because I know the city has 3 or 4 different sizes that are in town, and there's a lot of bricks that have been salvaged, so the availability of material is still there for now. So that's covered. And then specific to the pavement itself, yeah, we talked about if it's asphalt, it can go back to concrete. And this is an economics and construction season thing. If it's late in the season, it's kind of difficult to deal with asphalt. As we know, when we did any paving projects, they kind of end at a certain point and can't start back up until the spring. So with economics and timing, a lot of times if it's a small patch, concrete is more conducive for your crews to install. But there's also a part of that section that says if approved, you can still do asphalt. So it's at the city's discretion as well. So, and then concrete goes back to concrete and brick goes back to brick unless otherwise approved.
Is that what you mailed out?
Yes.
Okay, they have not saw that at all.
Okay.
It did not, it wasn't, I didn't have it in time for the agenda packet,
So we can get that.
To what's even being talked
So,
about.
yeah, so with that, I mean, it's probably, they will give a table on
Table
that
it.
so everyone can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah, please table.
So yeah, she can forward that to you guys, I think.
But not just before the next meeting, can we get them?
Yes.
Randy,
Yeah.
would you please speak your name, sir?
There it is. No, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm asking that he email those specs soon rather than just prior to the next meeting. To add to that, I understand your concerns, Pete. For the other people, though, this has been an ongoing discussion now for two years about how the ordinance restrict the engineer's capabilities of meeting our needs without certain products or being tied to a single product. So I think we need to think about both sides of that discussion. But I certainly agree if we can table this until the next meeting and we can all see the specs and then move forward with it. So we be sure it gets on the next agenda.
The other thing I would ask too, Jason, is if you could make it in print that you could see. There's,
That's nothing different.
I know it's completely different.
Yeah, and that's
but-
meant to go on an 11 by 17 page.
Yeah, but I'm
So
just saying
in the
there's a lot
future,
of
we
wasted
can fix
paper
that.
here. And I mean, we waste a whole piece of paper and that print is so small. I wish I didn't realize I was gonna need readers. When you're talking numbers that everybody wants us to look at every night, I can't see that.
I
So
should have printed it bigger, sorry.
that's okay. I'm just saying I need it bigger.
Okay,
Maybe written in crayon,
so we got
please.
a motion,
Have a motion?
kind of by you,
Big chief
Okay, I move,
tablet.
yeah.
to table.
I move to table until the next meeting when specs are available.
Second. Oh,
Kevin Allen,
yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Kim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. Up next, consideration bids demolitions of structures. This has been on the agenda, and I don't know if we're any closer with the county. I thought we were, but maybe not on the landfill, so, but I think we need to decide one way or another so we can get these in motion. So I don't know if anyone have any questions or suggestions on which way to do it.
So the which way to do it, one is with fees added and one without fees added, is that correct?
Correct. And the ones
Yeah.
without fees added, the city would just, basically would just pay it there. Which could still be that the county still said they would hold it until an agreement's made or not, or we would pay it, so.
Does anyone have any idea if we hold the fee, is it gonna be less than the bid fee, or do we know?
They gave me an average 40 tons of house, so that's 1,200, 1,400 house to dump fees is basically on average, so, I don't know if that helps or not.
So is that still with the contractor delivering it to the dump and us
Yes.
paying the dump fees? We
Yeah.
don't have to use our trucks to take it out there?
Right, yep, yep. So I guess on the first one, I guess we have each of these individually, so on the first one would be 611, Ransom.
Okay, but we're gonna have to decide whether we're gonna do it with or without dump fees, right, because they're all bid that way.
Right.
And we gotta accept them on a consistent basis, so.
Well, I mean, each one, I mean, yeah, I think each one stands alone individually.
I know, but you can't accept one way and one the next. In terms of dump fees or not dump fees. So are we going with dump fees or without dump fees?
I mean, what's your thoughts?
Well, just with dump fees, by my calculations, the low bid with the dump fee included, the total is $27,198. Without the dump fees and the city paying for that, I've got $15,245. So it's about a $12,000 difference for us to pay the dump fees. And to Josh's point, you said it was about $1,400 per house,
Right.
and there's 7 houses. So,
9,800.
yeah.
So based off the numbers, I would take it not without the dump fees.
Without the dump fee.
Right.
Okay.
I think it'd save the city money.
Good, let's do it.
So, I guess we make a motion individually on each of them.
Because
So-
you have different contractors.
Okay, so, on 611 Ransom, entertain a motion.
I move we accept the low bid. Is that sketches?
What's the low bid?
Where we're doing it without dump fees, so that'd be $2,949 opposed to the $3,400.
Right. I'll second that.
Pete Allen,
I'll pass.
Randy Nichols,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Josh Jones,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
All right, number 2, 323 Hill Street. Looks like the one without dump fees, lowest one is Saker Demolition, so
Yeah, $2,000.
entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we accept the bid for 323 Hill Street demolition without the dump fee by Saker Demolition for $2,000.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Randy Nichols, Pete Allen,
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, next one, 1517 Main Street.
We accept the demolition bid for 1517 South Main Street by Saker Demolition for $2,500. Second.
Randy Nichols, Pete Allen,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, up next, 316 South Main.
Make a motion, we accept the bid from Sketches Hauling and Excavating for 316 South Main for $1,949 without dump fees.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Randy Nichols, Pete Allen,
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. Next one is 114 South Barbie.
No, my next one that came up was Margrave. I move that we accept the low bid of $1,949 by Sketches Hauling for demolition of 114 South Barbie. Second.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Randy Nichols, Josh Jones.
Yes. Up next, 14 South Margrave.
Make a motion, we accept the bid from Sketches Hauling and Excavating for 14 South Margrave for $1,949 without dump fees.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Pete Allen.
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, last one, 510 Highland. I don't.
I move we accept the demolition for 510 South Highland without nut fee for 1949 by Stitches Hauling Excavation.
Second.
Pete Allen.
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, nothing under appearances,
Not 5 o'clock yet.
so we will move past the public hearing. Come back to that at 5 p.m. So under new business, change order number 1, Union Lost Alley Project, 15960.
Found some glasses while I was out.
Brad, I don't know if Mark left you anything to talk on this, or JD, or Jason.
Yeah, so the gist of the change order is, as you guys are aware, you know, that the south end of that alley across the street to the next alley, that's kind of what Commissioner Allen was talking about, where they paved it with concrete on a patch for a utility cut years ago. I think that used to be dyed brick color, and that has since faded away, and it's really rough. So the recommendation from staff was to extend that concrete apron that they're building at the south end of the alley across the street to the next alley. And that includes the materials to match the concrete at the apron, which has some reinforcing in it, deal with the bricks removal, which will be salvaged back to the city, and then replace along the edge a strip of the brick as well, based on standard practice for the bricks, which kind of would follow the recommended specification, where you've got concrete underneath the brick and then sand before you place the bricks.
I don't have that in my bag.
And then there's an AT&T manhole kind of on the southwest quadrant that actually kind of splits the limits of that pavement, so he's gonna actually pour a concrete apron around that as well. So that, I think that covers the costs.
And that's the 15960.
Yes.
And
Kevin, do you have something? I'm assuming the 15960 we're doing is the price per square foot based off the other one?
Yeah, extrapolated the unit price for the apron cost, correct.
How does this tie in with our overall plan of reconstruction of the brick streets in downtown Fort Scott? That whole street is in bad shape, right?
Most of it, yeah. It's really bad right
It's
through
really
there.
bad, and
Yeah.
for us to go in and do a piece of it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
well, and that's
Right.
what I was thinking. I mean, it's gonna have to be addressed completely, and we're in the downtown area.
Yeah.
And if we go in there and put a big concrete patch out in the middle of it, I recall one other spot that's right down by Hometown Bar. Funny, I'd recall that spot. But anyway, it's got a huge concrete patch right down the middle of a brick street that's not all that bad. And I just hate to continue down that road as we're talking about building our streets back into good shape.
Right.
I don't see.
Yeah, I understand. A little bit, the only difference is this ties alley to alley, concrete to concrete.
Correct.
So it's a continuous concrete run.
I agree.
Yes.
The only difference, but I mean, I understand what both of you are saying. I mean, sooner or later, we gotta go east and west of the concrete, and how, I mean, what's our
Right.
plan for that? I mean, is that, if we're gonna do that at any point, how does that affect doing the rest of First Street?
I think it'll give you, I mean, the strip on each side of it, east and west of what is the proposed concrete, will be newly placed brick, because even out at the edges, it's gonna get messed up. So he's gonna clean that up and relay the brick on top of a concrete slab. So it would facilitate, continuation of that in the future, as you take out the old bricks and then continue that section of the brick.
What this will actually do is once you get the concrete laid, it's going to give you a better foundation to push your bricks up against, to where it's going to lay better.
It's going to be a concrete strip through the middle of a brick street where the citizens have vehemently said they do not want concrete. They want to save all the brick streets from this point out. So we're going to have to end up cutting that concrete out to relay that brick street when we fix the brick street, which will be an added cost to the city because we'll have to demo that concrete and redo it all when we fix the brick street.
Is there a current functional reason to do this? That will be used a lot more
Yeah, the concrete will perform better over time, really, than the brick.
That's
as
not,
you know,
that's not the
unless
point.
they do it. If they do it correctly, the bricks, and as you know, a lot of your city streets are brick, and they've done well over the years, especially the ones that have been replaced, because they did it with, the subgrade, compacted concrete layer, sand, brick. So, we could, with your recommendation, we can ask for a quote to do it in brick if you'd like.
I think we should get our overall plan for downtown, the brick streets in the historical district. I think those areas, as Matthew says, should all be brick, and for us to put a concrete patch across there is going backwards. I think we should just leave what we've got and address that situation when we figure out what we're going to do and rebuild the street.
That's a tough situation because in my mind, we have time to fix a section of the street. That street could be tore up for the next 20 years before we ever touch it again, honestly. By the way, we've been getting stuff done. So in my mind, we can fix a section with concrete, or we can fix the whole thing with brick. But at what point do you think we'll ever get to First Street?
Here's my
It's expensive.
absolutely. My only thought is this: we've just brought this board before us tonight. The change order is a possible change order. So Kevin Allen would like to take the next 2 weeks to say yes or no on this. Is just me. I rather than just to pull the hammer right now, I'd like to think on. I think they've still got a ways to go on the alley, right? Or the other half.
Yeah, they've got the other half to finish.
Yeah, he's moving pretty good.
Yeah.
But I just.
So you don't think he'll be done before 2 weeks?
Well,
It'll be
if you want to
close.
call a special meeting and say in a week, I'm good with that too. I just need some time to think it over and process whether I would, I'd like to go look at the street and say, is it better to do back in brick or is it better to keep the alley going across? So that's just me.
So does that idea, can you get us a quote for the brick?
Yeah, I can ask him if he, instead of doing the concrete, which would be basically, limits of the alley across to the next alley. And really that would be good because that brick, where that runoff was causing a lot of issues is just in really bad shape. So yeah, I can basically say, can you, instead of concrete, do the brick all the way across to the limits of the alley width and then go from there. Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to table this until next meeting. Jason, come back with that.
Again, we talk about spending money when you're talking this kind of money. Is it appropriate to go out to bid too? So.
Got a motion?
Second?
No, you had the motion.
Oh, I made the motion?
Yes. Okay, Randy seconded it. Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Randy Nichols, he stepped out, Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right. Next is skating at Buck Run. Which as I'm going through this, I wish on the agenda, if we could, because the next thing is Jason also, I think, we could try to get.
Okay.
What did we need to break at 5 o'clock for?
Yes, we can go ahead and.
Not break, but for the 6.
No,
Neighborhood revitalization.
All right, so we need a motion to open public hearing, correct, Diane? All right, I'll make that motion to open public hearing.
Hang on a sec.
And do we need to just open one public hearing and close it and then open up the other one?
Yes.
So what I do. So this public hearing, I'll make the motion to open public hearing for budget amendment.
Second.
Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Andy Nichols, Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, so is there anyone here in the audience speaking on budget amendment?
I think Susan presented all the numbers at the meeting previously that needed amended, and you have them in front of you.
So there's no questions, anyone from the commission?
Did we go through this before?
This is the one
Yes.
that was on last meeting we went through. We had to schedule a public hearing for this one.
It has, I mean, just for the public's part, it has special streets and highways in 2020. 21, should that be 22? Oh, that was proposed in 2021.
So this is just a budget amendment for this year before the end of the year. You just have to make a budget amendment anytime. Usually these happen at the end of the year anyways.
Right. But I'm saying it's proposed for 2022, am I right? Because it has 2021 on the.
No, it's for this
No,
year.
it's for 2021.
Yep.
They have to be amended for this year.
Oh, okay. I'm with
Okay.
you now.
Right, so I entertain a motion.
Second.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Randy Nichols, Pete Allen,
Abstain.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes, and I'll make a motion to close that public hearing.
Second.
Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
And I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for the NRP.
Second.
Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Randy Nichols, Pete Allen,
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Rob, did you talk about this last time? I mean, basically what this is an extension of our NRP that lapsed earlier this year. So it's basically the same thing we've had. We just have to go through the process again of getting it redone. So first, I guess I'll ask the audience if there's any questions. And so, do any commissioners have any questions on this? No?
Now, are we gonna get some mapping available for that thing? Because, I mean, I just wanted to confirm, and I'd asked Rob, does this cover everything for eligibility within the city limits of Fort Scott? Because if you go to the pages of all the townships and marker locations and everything like that, I mean, I don't have a GIS mapping system at my house. It broke down.
Right. This covers the whole, way I'm understanding, this encompasses all of Fort Scott.
This would be the
Rob.
entire, Check. Okay. This would encompass the entire city limits of Fort Scott. Now, I understand what Commissioner Van Hookey's talking about because the legal description was 2 pages long. So, yeah, it may have been 3. It's very long, but yes, the way I understand it, because this was done obviously in 2012, they renewed it and extended it at 15 to 20. We're going to be extending it from 2022 to 2027 on this extension. But yes, the whole entire city of Fort Scott.
And yeah, Rob, I think it's a great program. I think we need to probably find ways of getting the eligibility and information out more.
Yes.
Especially the
Agree.
homeowners in town right here to take advantage of those tax breaks that they get for
Yep.
making those improvements, because it seemed very generous to me when I reviewed it.
Yeah, I concur. It's a great program. We don't have anything like this in Missouri where I came from when I first heard about it. It's an amazing incentive, especially for, I mean,
across the whole gamut. Historic downtown, it's 15 years. It's amazing. It's unheard of. 10 years, and we're talking 100%. If you look at other NRPs, they're 50% or 75%. You guys took it upon to do 100, but it's a great program and something we do need to market. I think not only locally, but we should market it outside our region to get other developers to understand the opportunities to build here in Fort Scott. So.
Yeah, I think it's great for attracting people to come in and do good things in a small community where we don't have other big tax offsets. So, are you already got a motion?
Need a motion.
I made a motion.
Second.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Pete Allen.
Yes.
Randy Nichols. Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close it. I'm on fire.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Randy Nichols. Pete Allen.
Yes.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, skating at Buck Run. Brandon, or is this? Yeah, and I'll kind of, I think that the numbers were, the numbers are down, so I think they're just asking to postpone it for the month of December.
Yes, we are wanting to have no skating until after the first of the year because of low numbers and with the holidays, just to let the staff have their time off for the holidays, plus see what the first of the year brings with rescheduling. And we are also looking at possibly having some sponsors nights to where we could possibly get some additional people coming to skate, especially since it's, January, February, March will be colder, so not much they can do outside. So maybe we can get some different types of events for the skating, have some, like I said, sponsors, or maybe a theme night here or there, maybe a 50s, 60s, 70s nights, 80s nights, whatever. But yes, we'd like to postpone it for at least December.
And honestly, I don't think you need a motion. I think that's just staff decision. So, all right. Next, water rate analysis discussion.
Good evening, Commission. I have a proposal to hand out to you. So this is a proposal from Carl Brown. Getting Great Rates is the name of his company. At the previous commission meeting, Susan made some comments that I completely agree with. She said that, and if you want to actually go and watch the previous commission meeting, this is at 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 30 seconds. She mentioned, in her opinion, that we needed a better rate assessment, that that the previous one was not what we needed. It was not a good analysis for our specific needs. We really need to figure out what it cost us to run our utility, and then take a good look at the actual structure of our rates, and then we can charge rates that are appropriate and fair. And that's what this guy specializes in. He takes a look at the actual structure of our rates and goes into great detail about our actual cost. And so I wanted to give this to you. I'm not asking for any kind of action tonight. I want to provide this for you. I just received it a couple days ago, and give you time to look it over, and then hopefully we can put this on the next agenda and make some progress. This guy also, we are a member of Kansas Rural Water Association, who assist utilities all across the state. And this is who they recommend we use for our needs. And I also, in the previous commission meeting, heard multiple commissioners express a desire to go down this route to achieve a better rate analysis. So can I answer any questions concerning this proposal?
Do you have references for Carl?
Yes.
Have you checked them out?
Well, not except Kansas Rural Water Association themselves, no. I have not. But there's a lot of information in this. This is a very detailed proposal, very clear. I love the way he did this. So if you just take time to look through this, I think that'll answer a lot of questions. And then obviously we can answer other questions that this doesn't answer.
I would ask that this be tabled probably to the first meeting in January.
Yeah.
If that works. And then
Yes.
we probably have a new city manager, maybe have some insight.
Wait a minute. Second it. Did you make a motion?
Right.
He motioned, I made a second.
Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Randy Nichols,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. Consideration of renewal of ADM contract.
Yes, ADM contract, that's something we've been working on for a while. It's renewed every three years. This is with the biodiesel plant just across the border. This is a wonderful situation that we have with those guys, providing for them treated wastewater effluent, but also they bring to us their wastewater and we treat that as well. So I would ask that you approve the updated contract for them. And I'll go ahead and just mention that it's because it's so closely related, we now have as part of that a spreadsheet that will enable us, if they are above the limits on the strength of water they're delivering to us, we never had the ability prior to now to charge them for that extra strength water. And now we have a spreadsheet that calculates that, which is part of the new contract. It can be used not only for them, but any industrial customer that supplies to us wastewater that is above, that has a strength above normal household strength of wastewater. So it's a good tool. And that would require, however, the repeal of a ordinance 1324-120 because it has very specific numbers in it. Well, this new spreadsheet replaces that. And Bob has helped us to work on that. So there's two separate items, but they're closely related, so I wanted to mention them together.
Can you point out any major differences between this contract and the last one that you know of?
Yeah, everything, all of the prices has been increased. Just as we're raising other rates, we're raising these rates as well. And there's also a built-in 2% increase per year going forward. And then the other big difference is now we have this spreadsheet available to us so that if the wastewater they're bringing is above, if the parameters that we test for are above a certain limit, then we can charge them for that as well. Mm-hmm.
There is no downside on this contract for us.
I think with the ordinance, the wastewater surcharge that we just talked about is included in the contract, so they have an obligation to follow that.
Yeah, and they have not accepted it yet. It's being brought to you for approval first, and then as soon as you approve it, we will offer that to them.
And Bob, I see, the ADM has a 60-day notice they can give to terminate this contract.
Right.
What clause in here allows us, if we want to, say 10 years, 15 years down the road, wanted to renegotiate, allows us?
Well, it's only a 3 or 4
That's
years,
what
I
I'm trying to
forgot.
go through and find.
3 years.
It's a 3-year contract. It just terminates.
Okay, I see it, sorry.
Move to approve the ADM contract on Bob's mic.
Second.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Tim Van Hook,
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, repeal of ordinance, section 13.24.120. Was that in our packet?
And then that's the one that I just mentioned in connection with the contract. It's from 1984, I believe, 82 or 84. It just says if the BOD is greater than this, then you charge this many cents per pound above the limit, and it's again the number is just extremely low, way too low. And now this spreadsheet is much more comprehensive, and it gets the price back up to where it needs to be.
I understand we have it, so we can just make that our standard charging process without having it in an ordinance or some other.
No, it's in, the spreadsheet's included in the ADM contract.
But if another company comes in,
Yeah.
it will need to be included in their contract, or is this just going to become standard?
It's just our
Charging.
standard charge.
Charging
In other words,
protocol.
if you want us to treat your water, here's what we charge.
Do we have to approve that spreadsheet?
Well, it's a policy thing.
Okay,
In other words,
so
it's an internal document.
All right, good. Just wanted to know.
Yeah, kind of speaking of that spreadsheet standard, I mean, can't be changed for different companies or?
No, because then you would be discriminating between what kind of effluent you produce as opposed to what kind of effluent he produces. It's all done on if it's dirty water of 2 or 3 or 4. Yeah, it treats everybody the same.
So does the motion need to be then to repeal the ordinance and follow the spreadsheet?
Sure.
Okay, I would move that we repeal ordinance section 1324.120 with anticipation of following the spreadsheet schedule.
Second.
Yeah, the title of the spreadsheet is Fort Scott Industrial Billing Rate.
Okay.
Okay. These are two different motions.
We
One
do.
for the ADM, did anybody call
did not.
roll on it?
Oh, yep, she did.
Okay, sorry,
Don't be confused.
I am.
Yeah, the clerk's getting old and tired.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna call on the repeal of ordinance 1324.120 and to follow the spreadsheet. Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Tim Van Hook,
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. Approval of repair of ozone generator number 2.
Okay, so there's no approval I'm asking for. There's no action needed. I'm just giving you a notification, I guess, update. We do have a very complicated problem with the ozone treatment system that's part of our water treatment. And we are, actually there's a representative from the manufacturer working on it right now. And it may lead to some very expensive repairs. I can't give you a number yet because I don't know. I almost hesitated to put this on here, but it's just a heads up. It's a heads up. Might have an expensive repair coming for the ozone treatment.
So no repairs have been authorized yet?
There is one PO that has been encumbered and signed off on.
You remember how much that was for?
$28,000 for that one PO. But again, I have such little definite information. I hesitate to go too far into details. If you come to visit me, I will bore you with copious amounts of details at the water plant.
No, I do appreciate
But-
bringing it at least to our attention.
Okay.
Do they have a time frame of when they think they'll?
Mm-mm. No, we've actually been working on this for quite some time, and then the backup, we have 2 different generators for redundancy, and while we're trying to figure out the one that is down, the other one finally failed also. So now the whole system is down, and we're going to figure it out.
Took the necessary precautions of the next step to follow.
Yeah, we're on the backup of the backup, so we're using that as a free chlorine basin now instead of feeding ozone. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Michael. G, consideration of tree removal ordinance amendment.
Mr. Mayor. What we did was Susan and I had an occasion to study the tree ordinance. And in doing that, we came across first the weeds ordinance. So if you look at the weeds ordinance, which is ordinance 824-010, and then compare the language and the phraseology to the current tree ordinance over in chapter 12, they're written completely different, but we thought there should be some harmony there. And so we went to Mr. Farmer and presented him 2 options for modification to the tree ordinance. And the one that Mr. Farmer, I think, agreed with the most is the one you should have before you tonight. First of all, one change that you'll see is that as the ordinance is written currently, the city only has authority on private property to remove trees. The updated ordinance would then give us jurisdiction, say, for trees in the right-of-way, whereas currently we don't have that authority by statute. The other thing we thought was important is to redact some language out of the tree ordinance, which removes any authority that the park board has regarding trees. So we would ask you to affirm and accept the updated tree ordinance.
See, I think that's a good idea. You're saying right now we don't legally have authorization to cut trees off where trucks are hitting them as they go down, let's say Broadway.
That's correct.
Broadway's a big one where if a truck goes down there, say a box truck, it's taking trees out left and right.
Commissioner Allen is correct in that the current ordinance does not give the city authority to act on public property, only on private property.
Is it still, though, I mean, my question is this, is it within the codes, right, to say you probably need to cut your tree? I mean, do you get I've never got I've got plenty of grass citations, but I've never got a tree citation. Is that something that's going to be coming up, or?
Well, yes, but we have to have the legal authority to do that, and so you would be giving us that permission to operate under color of law by changing the ordinance, just like the weeds ordinance is written. That's why I'm saying that whenever we write ordinances and statutes, there needs to be harmony and consistency in language, and that's where we noticed a huge disparity between the 2 ordinances, and we want them to read fairly similarly. Mr. Farmer agreed.
Anyone have any other questions?
Go ahead.
You're gonna move?
No, I'm not moving yet. I want to think about that for a little bit myself.
Well, I would move to accept the ordinance as it's written.
Yeah, I would move to second that simply because, I mean, for a little while we were getting some help from like the C-Click fix on some of these problem trees and branches. But it's still, I mean, there's areas in this town, if you come down Wilson Street to 3rd Street and you're trying to make a left-hand turn, you can't see literally the forest for the trees. You know, and traffic sometimes, especially in the evening time, moves pretty quick, east-west on there. So I would second the motion to approve the ordinance.
I mean, I guess my concern is cutting grass is one thing, but I think the ordinance, it has to be 8 feet above sidewalk and all that, and so.
Grass.
No, tree
Oh.
limbs. And so that's a little bit harder for some people to, and so, yeah, I.
He's standing on his own shoulders.
Well, and I meant for the elderly or something, because it's a little more expensive than paying someone $15 to come mow your yard. So I'm just the implementation of this.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. We have groups like Craig Campbell's group.
Yes.
We try to utilize those folks
And that's what.
to help instead of punish. But for example, and the issue that came up, gentlemen, just so you know, was that the city cut down a tree on the right of way because it was hanging down over East National, and there was a question of why are we doing that? It's against the ordinance. This now gives the city, Public Works, the authority to act, without restriction. And I also like the idea of removing the park board's authority at all in having anything to do with trees on private property and people's yards. So I think it reads cleaner, and I think the ordinance, as Mr. Farmer has constructed it, now serves the betterment of the community, whereas before I think it was shortcoming.
The parks, so they had the authority.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
If
so-
you read the statute,
yeah.
they can send a letter to a house owner and make them do something with their tree. I think that's the prerogative of our.
Yeah, just slow the
Middleman.
process down.
That's just a middleman.
And so I'm assuming
Right.
it's still for the parks. I don't.
Oh, no,
foresee-
they've still got authority to do everything, but we've taken them out of the enforcement.
That was my thing. I just want extra emphasis on, not writing a bunch of citations, especially if it's a elderly person that doesn't have a chainsaw and ladder.
I understand what you're saying. I agree. We try very hard to avoid citations when we can and try and get some of those community organizations to help out.
I'll second.
It's already done.
Or whatever.
Randy Nichols,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys.
All right, H, consideration of old military bridge removal.
I think that was the document Mr. Kevin Allen said was really small. That was the bid tab, I think. So we just broke out, there was 4 bids on 3 options.
Will
Do you want to go through that?
Options 1 and 3 for me real quick, because your estimates had me.
It's a weird
Right, so option
deal.
1,
So
remove and reimburse salvage from the city, so they're gonna remove it
yes,
and then give.
the intent was if salvage value was high enough, there would be money ahead for the city. Which, as you see with the bids, only one even priced it.
My question is,
It was strange.
Your estimates had a lower estimate if they gave the scrap to the city than if they kept it themselves.
Yeah, I'd have to revisit that.
So that just really had me.
What was my numbers? Like 15, 20?
15,000 if they
Yeah.
didn't keep the scrap, or 20,000 if they kept the scrap. So I think you had that backwards. But,
That could be. Yeah, the intent was that option 1 would be
Right.
the cheapest for the city, but only one really entertained that.
Has staff reached out? I know they talked to Tom, but have we reached out to our staff and just see if there's something we can't do for less than 9,000, or maybe our new city manager would have any possibly help in a month?
Yeah, we kind of, this first came up in June. And I don't know if the state was involved or what, but so it kind of was discussed a little bit. We did talk to Jerry and his crew, and the city manager at that time to try to see, well, can you guys do it? And, if it came down to it, I think he said that he could. However, timing and staff and, all that kind of led us to, let's bid it out and see how much it would cost to have someone else do it.
I knew that was in June. I just didn't know it's in
Yeah.
winter time now.
We could definitely talk amongst each other in the staff meetings and see, if we have the right equipment. I know we've got the right people I mean,
I
we've got
know from
the
June,
knowledge to
and that's what I
do
was
that.
thinking, from June to now, and we had, I know Jerry's really good and
Mm-hmm.
everything, but you've hired some people since then that have more experience than we've had in the past.
I really feel that it would be up to, do we have the right equipment? I'm not scared about the people because I know they can do the job. They can do anything. It's just, do we have the right equipment and, capabilities to doing it with what we've got? So, if you give us some time, we could talk that over and I can come back to you and see what we can do.
I mean, that's what I would suggest, because I mean, basically it's $12,000, it's $9,000 to pay him. Based off his estimate, there's $3,000 worth of scrap there. So I don't know if any other commissioners have any other thoughts.
How long are the bids good?
Say again?
How long are the bids good?
60 days. It's typical.
So is this something you feel comfortable with, the first one in January?
Or yeah, is that the next one? Is that the next?
Second one in December.
We will talk about it Thursday, and then get back, see if we can get it by the next meeting.
All right, so we don't need nothing on that then. All right. Sir. All right, up next, request to pay Eckert Construction, $45,000 South National Avenue overlay.
Yeah, this was from the previous meeting. I think we, back when they finished their work, we did a walkthrough punch list. We know that there's a section of that they've got to redo, so they're obligated to come back, which is going to be in the spring, to mill that out and replace it. So at that point, the roadway was usable. So the initial intent was, well, it's substantially complete, which by the agreement, that's 90%. So initially they asked for 90%. I think Mark talked to the probably the commissioners and came to the conclusion that we'll try 80%, and that was not approved last meeting. So after further discussion, we came down to 50%. So this is a 50% pay request on that project.
No, we made a motion to go out.
It was tabled, yeah.
Yeah, it was tabled. No, that was the old, you're looking at the old. Yeah. So yeah, based on that, I mean, I think we've talked about this last couple of meetings, so I would make the motion to pay them the $45,000, which is roughly half for the National Street overlay.
Yeah, actually that's half less 10% retainage.
Well, I'd like to question, at the last meeting, the price was $72,000, and now it's $90,000. What happened?
Yeah, and that should be, actually, item J probably should happen first, but item J covers that additional cost. And you'd asked at the last commission meeting that I sent to Mark, and I don't know if Brad got it, but I have it, about how that was calculated. In that last meeting, I said it was an error. The bid was an error. The volume of asphalt and the square yards of that project were the same numbers as the bid for Horton Street, and they were just transposed into the wrong bid. So the actual numbers to get up to that price that you're talking about, and the change order for a total price of $90,000 is the actual quantities of National Avenue.
So it wasn't a mistake on Hecker's, it was a mistake on
Correct.
Earl's.
Yep. So the change order would cover their cost, and it's a major quantity, and he sent those numbers. So my number was, I think, 705 tons. The major quantity was 699 on the asphalt.
Well, and I mean, I'm still hung up. This is just me personally. Again, I'm hung up on the fact that we looked at it, and I'm not trying to knock you. personally, or Earl's, but we looked at it as a project that was gonna cost us $57,000. And, it's, now we bid the wrong street, and we trusted in Earl's to bid the right street. So, that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm looking at a bid for $57,000 that the commission said go for it, and now we're wanting to pay half at 45,000, and it's going to double and be 90. So, I mean, I know we're probably on the hook for it now, but I just feel like
Yeah, I don't think we were ever not on the hook for it.
I understand, but I'm saying it's a $33,000
They bid
difference.
a project, the numbers were just wrong. I mean, it's not Heckard's fault.
No, I'm not
It's
saying that.
Heckard's fault. So
Not at all.
I mean, if we have something else we need to discuss, I mean, I think we can do that at due time. But I think right now, I don't think Heckard did anything wrong. Would you agree?
No, I agree with that. I agree they did some inferior work, but they're saying they'll come back and take care of it.
That's right.
So they didn't do everything great, but and they stood on the street and told us that. But I just feel like there ought to be some discussion with Earl's as to how we either don't come to this point again, or this is not a good thing to be at.
I agree. For future discussion, that is something we can.
Yeah, we'd be happy to
Yeah.
sit down and talk about that. Yeah.
But item I make a motion.
Yeah, you did.
Yes, you have made a motion. No second.
Second.
Okay. This is to pay the 45,059.96. Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
No.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, item J, change order Heckard Construction, which we just discussed, was based off improper calculations, numbers, transposing from Earl's. So I'd make the motion to pay Heckard Construction for the work they did, an increase of $32,609.17
Second.
Your motion was what?
for the increase, to pay the change order.
I thought we just did that. Is that not what we did?
No.
You did the pay first. Request to pay.
We did the half.
Now what do you want to do? I don't have the
Change
agenda.
order.
It was in front of you.
No, I've lost it again.
You can't find it.
So it's been moved and seconded.
Been moved and seconded. Randy Nichols,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Kevin Allen,
Abstain?
Pete Allen,
No.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right, up next.
He needs his agenda back.
Human Resource Director comments. Bradley? That's it.
Okay, I will make this brief. Wanted to talk to you just about a couple things. The first one is the city manager employment agreement that you have in front of you. We have a signature from an individual, which we can now make public. His name is Kelly Zellner. We did make him an offer. If approved by the commission, we will be good to go with him on January 4th. And that's what we would need is for you, Mayor, to sign off on that. And would you agree on that? I'm not sure if we want to go into the specs or not. We can if you'd like.
Well, my only question would be for myself is, since the last time we reviewed it, have there been any additional changes made to it?
No, sir.
I would make a motion to approve the contract for, employment of the new city manager as written.
Second it.
Yeah, and I will say, you know, this process seemed a lot better than the last one we went through. Brad, I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
The committee we also had a committee that interviewed, candidates as well. And I want to thank them for taking time out of their day to do that.
Yeah, and I'll second that. You know, you and Mark and the whole committee worked great. I think we actually also saved a lot of money by doing it this way.
I would say, you know, with the panel's help, that really helped a bunch. Plus doing a lot of additional background checking with a lot of others' help made it to where the elimination of people were easier. We did have some very qualified people at the end, and that's what you want. You want the choice to be hard, and I feel like it was really so. But no, I thank you all for being part of it. Matthew also, I'm not sure if he's still here.
He's out for the parade. He's leading the parade.
But you know, that it was I thought it went well, you know, and we did save some money, like I said, and our time frame is right around where we started from, so that's good.
One thing I'd love to have is when Kelly gets here in January, maybe an evening or a Saturday, is maybe a meet and greet for the community with him. If the commissioners are good with that, just kind of get familiar with faces, you know, they can attend and do that. So
sure.
That on your schedule.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Pete Allen.
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
yes.
The other thing that I have, I'm not exactly sure if you need to see this, but I wanted to at least give you some clarification of what we're doing with employee evaluations for this time of the year, their review periods. We went away from the computerized version that we had and went to a more of a, I guess you could call an Excel spreadsheet type evaluation system that was developed. And what you've got is what's going to be going on. We're also looking at how often do we do member reviews. So once we get that schedule, I'll let you know that also. But this was something that I looked at when I came on board. With the feedback from staff, there was a lot of negativity about how they did reviews, how hard the reviews were with the technology system that we had. And so we basically went old school and went back to, using the simple Excel spreadsheet to where the managers can make it of ease. We got rid of the self-evaluations with the members. I do believe the directors are still doing the self-evaluations of themselves, but we went away from it for the members just to make it easy. I feel with reviews, the most important part is to communicate. You really want to give the member what they want and to really listen to what they have to say. And that's what this review system is. So like I said, don't know if you need to see it, but it's something to keep you in the loop with. And that is really all I've got.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah.
All right, Randy.
I noticed in Fort Scott Biz, Jessica Moen did an article on her. It's very good. I think that's a great series, and thank you, Jessica, for what you did.
Yes.
Tim.
I do, and it's going to take a few minutes, and it looks like a lot, but I'm going to breeze through it because I know we don't have a lot of time. I mean, we don't want to put a whole lot of stuff at the end of the meeting. So if I could get you to pass those one to Diane.
And I'm just asking, is this something you wait till after the parade? Or you think
Are we
you're
coming
gonna-
back in after the parade? We can do that if
I mean,
you're
I don't
worried
wanna-
about it. If you're worried about it extending the parade?
Mine's short.
You got one, I got one.
Okay, just real quick, and pretty fitting this evening that, you know, we had a person come in here talking about, his house over on Ransom that he's got an issue with. We had another person in here talking about homeless people that were in here. What I want to just briefly discuss this evening, because it's something that's near and dear to me, it's something that a lot of people came to me about when we were running, were the dangerous and unsafe homes in our city. And as a commissioner, we know we're responsible for the safety of our citizens, business owners, and employees, but we're also accountable for the quality of life and their ability to enjoy and take pride in the neighborhoods they live in. So tonight I want to talk about the current state of these properties and how they're impacting our community. On July 29th, back when I first started running, I went and made a core request that I put a copy of in here for a listing of properties that were having a negative impact on our community. And at that time, the total number of properties were 31. And there's an attachment with that as well. Since that time, I've done a request for an updated list and coordinated that through the city manager and the codes enforcement team, and that list has now grown to 77 properties, with 61 of those properties falling under the urgent category. This is a concerning rise in the number of structures, and I know it's going to continue to grow. Tonight, a great thing happened. We voted to remove what amounted to less than 10%, but we're getting rid of some. So just quickly, what are the impacts of these homes in our neighborhood? Economic development, our most updated economic plan from January 2020 calls out our lack of affordable housing. And from a realtor standpoint or a growth standpoint, currently as of yesterday, we had 32 homes for sale in Fort Scott, Kansas, inside the city limits. 17 homes are in an active available status with a pricing range from $14,000 to $417,000. We know that the median income for most people working in the city is at $36,800. There were 15 homes in pending status, 12 vacant lots in city limits with price ranging from $5,000 to $22,000, with a large portion of those isolated in the Westbury Lane and Tiffany Lane area. Yet, with only 17 homes available, we have 6 major realtors servicing the Fort Scott community. I'm amazed they're not in the alleys having knife fights, seeing who gets to list these properties, because there's not a lot there, and people are leapfrogging over us, and developers are building homes in Pittsburgh. So property tax cannot reduce further until we grow our tax base and put bodies in buildings. The conditions of these properties and lack of usable assets deter people from wanting to move and invest in Fort Scott. These properties could bolster economic growth through the land bank if available when the land bank is established. Destruction of these structures may create additional employment, even if it's temporary employment. The properties discourage housing developers from investing in Fort Scott. If a large company wanted to move here with any decent number of employees, we don't have our housing to support them. And it impacts the neighborhood revitalization plan, which we also heard from tonight, which I think is a great program and opportunity for developers. My passion in life is safety. I've been in safety for 20 years. I've got international certifications for safety, but I don't rely on my input. I went to the United States Fire Administration. These are potential hazards for neighbors, city inspectors, and first responders. Anything from as simple as a fall and trip hazard all the way up to vandalism, criminal activity, vermin and wild animals, and unstable structures. I don't think any commissioner, nor do I believe that they do, any commissioner or citizen wants to add additional risk to our first responders or city employees in the performance of their duties if they must respond to one of these structures. It sends the wrong message to our citizens, potential outside investors, and potential new residents. And it's really kind of poetic to me that our city codes department, the front door to get into the city codes department right now, and this isn't a residence, but it's just reflective, the stairs are closed off because they're unsafe in front of our own codes department. So I think this needs to be a priority for this commission to resolve in a manner that is much quicker than 7 homes a year. I'm very pleased tonight that we approved the removal of 7 of these unsafe structures. However, this leaves 70 more of these homes, of which more than 50 are identified on a list that I provided to you as urgent. There is an attachment in there that shows the 77 homes, of which the 7 we did tonight are going to be off the books, but these other ones that are on there, they are categorized as urgent or secondary. I put in the document also the cost of the homes we approved tonight. Gratefully, the budget of $50 grand was just needed at right over 50% in one scenario and approximately 30% in another for these 7 homes. Looking at an average cost of how these removals are projected at this point, we should, from a budget standpoint, be able to do either another 5 to 15 houses out of our existing budget, depending on how this goes. But this still leaves us with a little over half our identified urgent structures. So at the same time, I'd like to address finding the funds to eliminate all the urgent homes in a quicker manner. And I want you to please listen to the entire thing I say before anyone jumps to any conclusions that may be watching out here tonight on YouTube. Earlier this year, we sold 4 lake lots at Lake Fort Scott, and $500,000 was budgeted for a lake fund for improvements. I have attended the commission meetings, and I've reviewed the different phases of the plans that have been proposed, both in the meeting minutes as well as in the Fort Scott Tribune. I do think, absolutely, the shelter house needs redone. We do need modern bathrooms and decent camping sites. For my personal times at the lake with family and friends, I actually have a couple of ideas myself on what I like to see at it. I'd like to see some friendly stairs that go from the shelter house down to the swimming beach. So again, the lake is something I also use myself. I have a lot of friends that actually live out the lake that I've discussed this with. However, I do have some concerns with what our return investment will be from the campgrounds and shelter rentals at the lake that I have attached as well. These are not professionally done. They're just the work of one commissioner digging into information on camping in our areas, my own personal experiences camping in Kansas and Missouri, and how much in layman's rough numbers will we recover over 10 years of managing campground with hookups. I do commend and encourage the Lake Advisory Board to continue to explore the options to improve these conditions and make these things happen. While improving a recreational facility is key to the morale of our citizens and visitors, I believe that the health, safety, morale, economic development, and safe housing is more important to the citizens of our city that each commissioner in this room was elected to represent above all else. We need to, as a commission, get a real clear and focused understanding of the total impact of these unsafe structures that cover our city on the east side, west side, north side, and south. As we have budgeted 10 times the amount of money for lake improvements that we have for mitigating the items listed on the structure demolition list, I'm suggesting that we revisit that possibility after a review that I will present in a motion. Part of the information I provided to you was what we currently estimated for the 7 homes identified, what remains out of that budget, and adding a 10% increase as a buffer to each. What it would cost us to remove the identified urgent structures. I'm not asking for a motion to move or alter funding at this time, but I think if you do go to that document that I've got back here, I think it's the second one from the end, it will show you that in looking at this, that it comes to about $230,000 under one option and below that for another option to at least mitigate the 55 structures that are still out there. So with that, I'd like to move on to my motion. If we want to table it for discussion later, that's fine. I know that unfortunately, and I apologize, we kind of brought this in here today, but I just got some of the numbers and information. Motion 1, I would like to make a motion that the Lake Advisory Board continue the dedicated work they're doing to find ways to use these city taxpayer funds to improve this recreational area. But in light of the information I have provided this evening, that we freeze the use or expenditure of any of these funds in HR 21-2021, which is the Lake Fund, from the sale of city lake property until a full review by the Codes Enforcement Team, Economic Development, Law Enforcement, Fire Department, and City Commissioners is completed both from a community hazard and cost to remediate estimate, so that we can find a way to eliminate the hazards of these unsafe structures to our community. So that's my first motion I'd like to make.
Well, I will say I looked over some of these lists and I know some of these houses. So I will disagree some of the lists, like one of them is labeled overgrowth. And so to me, don't know if that requires urgent tear down.
Yeah.
So this has been a topic for, man, as long as I can remember.
25 years.
And so we have challenged codes before, and Pat Wood, myself, Craig Campbell met with codes a couple years ago and challenged a way to some of these that people can't afford to fix up. And so you realize you're tearing down a house that might, to you, seem needs to be tore down. There might be an 85-year-old lady living in there that can't afford to fix it up, and now she's gonna be homeless. And so that's consideration we have to take in. The Phoenix project is something Neodesha I've asked to look at. It's a group, the high school, they fix up the outside. And there's things like that I'd love to look at before just tearing down 55 houses.
Well, and I agree with that. And I actually drove around, and I've driven around for months. And I got one close to home. I mean, like I said, I'm worried about with a condemned sign on, a red tag label on there, someone's small kid wandering into that home. There's one here, first picture in here, 7th and Hill Street.
Right, and I'm not going to disagree with some of them, the red tags, but when you say house needs tore down because of overgrowth, you know, I might tend to, and I'm just going through some of these that I know, I know 70-year-old people are living in, and so I'm trying to go through my head as, what's the next step for them? Instead, you know, tear down a house and not worry about it, what's the next step of, how do we get those people into, do we reach out to them? It's something Craig's worked good with, I can't think of the program, but it allows low interest loans, free grants. We worked with getting some into low income housing. And so that's my problem is, where do these people go?
Well, I guess the question is to it then is I mean, I've got a list here that came to us from our codes department.
Right.
It says it's urgent. So what I've asked for in the motion
Right.
was, let's revisit that and confirm it. If it's an issue with people in the house, absolutely. I don't want to tear down a house with somebody living in it, but what do we do to get that fixed? Because I got to tell you, we also have a lot of elders in this town that have helped build this town and been here forever in the same neighborhoods they were in before, and they do a great job of trying to keep their homes up. But their property value is in the tank because of that house that's in their neighborhood, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Tim, I would like to just say, first of all, Debbie Downer for Christmas. No, I'm just kidding. But no, the good part is that we got two numbers here at the end of the list, and it's 236,500 for an estimate and 137,500. Yeah. That's the great part is that we know.
I think it is.
We realize now that we own a piece of the property out there, and we're going to be able to reduce those spendings in order to get rid of our houses. I'm along with Josh. There was one property in there in particular that I seen that just said not going to fix up, and so with this much paperwork, I really like to time again. You know, I've been scolded at meetings. Quit saying stuff at the end of the meeting, wanting us to vote on it. You know,
yeah, and that's
I
fine,
never
too.
brought this much.
Matter of fact, if you want, well, you know
Jeez,
what?
that's a lot.
You get the camera in the hand there and you start going, but
yeah, I understand. But
couldn't get the wife to pose in any of them. But.
Well, and I think this is great stuff, and I'm all about cleaning up, and I think it's great that we got an opportunity now to.
Well, what I'll do then is I'll hold on the other two motions that I had on here is we are, you know, want to be respected of the parade, but you don't understand the importance of recreation in this community, and understand what each part of the community, whether it's outside of the city limits or the county, contribute. But I will always, as I've said, I was elected as a city commissioner for the residents of and the citizens of the city of Fort Scott.
Yeah.
And if this is something that we can look at and table and discuss and get more detail on, but I do think that with how well these 7 houses went in this bid, we not only make sure that we use the remaining budgeted funds that are out there now, but what can we do to mitigate even more?
I think that's the point. I mean, it's not, you're not recommending, you're saying any of these houses would need to go through the approved process for condemning and then bringing the ultimate destruction of the house. But your point is that we need to use those resources possibly from the sale of the lake property in a way that would help to do that once once you met the other goals of rehabilitating and upgrading the issues at the lake. So yeah, I think
it's with Kelly coming on. I think that's something he can look into. See if we got funds from even other areas. That
I wasn't asking for bulldozers tomorrow.
Right. We got them now, but but that's great. But I just also. Okay, Parade.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Parade. One more thing, just real quick. I screwed up this morning, and not until my daughter called my wife at 10 a.m. to wish her happy birthday did I remember it was my wife's birthday. So
I was going to say something.
Happy birthday.
I'm just Pete. Do you have anything? Would you like to come back afterwards? Are you good? And I'm just gonna bring up real quick. SRO. Talked to a county commissioner and a school board, and I would just love to see if we can proceed with possibly looking at getting a second SRO officer, a shared one. So I don't know if we need to make a motion to look into that, or is that something we just give direction to Mark if there's a consensus? Diane, Bob?
You can.
I think all you got to do is direct staff.
Yeah.
Bring you back.
Does anyone have any problems with that?
Nope. I say make Brad do it.
You have anything good? Okay, make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Did you have? No, I just had one thing, and it was really kind. It's not like Tim's. It was
the Christmas downer.
That's right. I just want to say thank you to all the city employees who attended last night to the Christmas dinner. It was great. A special thank you to Brad Mackin, Diane Clay, Rachel Thompson, and last but not least, Mark and Mo McCoy and their family for putting everything together they did last night. That meal, I was a little skeptical when you said lasagna for Christmas, but it was amazing. Everybody had a great time. We gave away a lot of good prizes, and that's all I got. Merry Christmas.
Absolutely.
I'm the good one.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Pete Allen.
Yes.
Randy Nichols. Ken Van Key. Josh Jones.
Yes.
They can do it. Oh,